Welcome to In Pursuit of Truth. This is your host, Sir Patrick Mac. Boys and girls, the gloves are off. The unhinged left wants a battle. It's a battle they're going to get. You want to beef with us? You want to brawl? You want to roll? You want to play? You want to dance? You want to step outside? I got you. But let me warm up first. It's all in the technique, kids. Especially to you young bucks out there. It's all in the lower back. How many we got, John?
5.
Nice. Let's get started. 23:76. 14 minutes after the hour, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We get a couple links here, one to the Hill and one to a Scarticle. We get boom, 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 boom. Coincidence. The news today is focused on a resignation. First one takes you to the Hill right here by John Solomon. Former FBI lawyer plot to record, remove Trump, not a joke. Don't tell former FBI General Counsel James Baker that those now infamous discussions about secretly recording President Trump and using the tapes to remove him from office were a joke. He apparently doesn't believe it, and he held quite the vantage point. He was on the inside of the Bureau's leadership in May 2017 when the discussions occurred. Baker told Congress last week that his boss, then acting FBI Director Andrew McCabe, was dead serious about the idea of surreptitiously recording the 45th president and using the evidence to make the case that Trump should be removed from office, according to my sources. Baker told lawmakers he wasn't in the meeting McCabe had with Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein in which the subject came up, but he did have first-hand conversations with McCabe and the FBI lawyer assigned to McCabe, Lisa Page, about the issue. As far as Baker was concerned, this was a real plan being discussed, said a source directly familiar with the congressional investigation. It was no laughing matter for the FBI. Word of Baker's testimony surfaced just days before Rosenstein was set to be interviewed in private on Thursday by House Judiciary Committee lawmakers. Since the New York Times first reported the allegations, Rosenstein, the number 2 Department of Justice official, has tried to downplay his role in them. His office has suggested that he thought the discussions were a joke, that Rosenstein never gave an order to carry out such a plot, and that he does not believe Trump should be removed from office. But making those statements through a spokesperson is a bit different than having Rosenstein himself face Congress and answer the questions under penalty of felony if lawmakers think he is lying. All right, so this is starting to get really interesting, and we know that Baker's testimony isn't necessarily going to be classified. We're going to be able to hear a lot of this and how it goes. And it seems like it's kind of in line with Lisa Page's testimony, or at least that's what my guess is. We don't really know completely what her testimony was. But this is really, really damning information for the entire deep state. It looks like we're going right back to Andrew McCabe and this story between him and Comey, talking about Rosenstein wearing a wire. Look, folks, I love humor as much as the next guy, but I'm failing to see the punchline in this joke. Now, this Sarah Carter Scarticle basically says a lot of the same stuff, that James Baker did not take this as a joke. I've got you down here on the second section here. On Monday, President Trump flew to Florida with Rosenstein in their first sit-down meeting since the New York Times story was published. According to the White House, Trump and Rosenstein met for a half hour as they headed to the International Association of Chiefs of Police annual convention in Orlando, Florida. Trump said at the event in Florida, "Thank you as well to our Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein for being here. Flew down together. The press wants to know, what did you talk about?" We had a very good talk, I will say. That became a very big story, actually. We had a good talk. It is unsure if the situation will remain the same in light of Baker's testimony. However, Rosenstein is set to give his deposition to lawmakers on October 11th regarding the information published in the New York Times story, along with the information recently provided by Baker, several congressional lawmakers confirmed to SarahACarter.com. White House officials did not comment on the deposition by Baker, but instead referred comment to the DOJ. DOJ spokeswoman Sarah Isgur Flores declined to comment on Baker's testimony, but Baker's testimony revealed even more than the circumstances surrounding the Rosenstein meeting with Page and McCabe. And it goes on to talk about how David Korn from Mother Jones had a version of the Steele dossier. There was a few of them being given out, right? And it looks like our James Baker had all of this information. So we are looking now at James Baker's testimony. And of course, we've got Bruce Orr, Peter Strzok, Lisa Page. It seems to me that we've got a lot of information now, and Rod Rosenstein is going to have his feet to the fire by tomorrow. And this should prove really, really interesting what happens with Rod Rosenstein. Now, who knows what they spoke about on the plane, how this is going to end up playing out. Is Rosenstein going to resign, step down? Is he going to try and battle back and try and force President Trump to fire him? It remains to be seen, but it does look like we are at a turning point here. And that should be a very big story in the news. However, it was not. Q says boom, 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 boom. So we're looking at 4 booms. Coincidence? The news today is focused on a resignation. Yeah, that's true. Everyone's talking about Nikki Haley, who resigned from U.S. ambassador to the UN. Now, Nikki and President Trump, of course, have not always seen eye to eye. I know a lot of people have conflicting views on Nikki Haley. I myself am not really sure how I feel about her. I think she did a really great job over this last year, but to be honest with you, I'm not a really big fan. That being said, to all you haters out there that love to just assume because I criticize somebody that I'm hating them, I don't hate Nikki Haley. I just don't love her. I'm just not real thrilled. But I do think she's probably going to run for office. I do think she did a great job this last year. Like I said, she's been real tough in a tough set of circumstances, and she's dealt with a lot. So I will say that about this whole situation. But it's interesting as to whether or not she'll be running for some sort of office. Now, she did say she wasn't going to be running in 2020. She was going to be helping Trump campaign. That doesn't surprise me. But it wouldn't surprise me to see her on a ticket, maybe 2024, something like that. And, for those of you who are maybe not thrilled with her, maybe that'll, buy her some time to change our minds, I guess. But, like I said, I don't love her. That doesn't mean I hate her. I'm not really sure what I think about her. But top-notch job as the, U.S. ambassador at the UN is a particularly difficult job considering the filth that is the UN. And I think that's what's really the important takeaway here, at least for me. And so I appreciate that effort, and I'm not sure if there's going to be now she kind of mentioned that there could be a possible replacement there. I would honestly love to see us just go ahead and get out of the UN altogether. I'm hoping that's the eventual goal, but she may or may not be replaced, and I guess we'll have to see how that plays out. But that's the resignation that we're talking about, and it looks like Q is talking about 4 big booms. Now, I don't know if these are going to be people booms, whether it's going to be Rosenstein, McCabe, and Comey. You can tell me what you think. If these are going to be event-like booms, if these are going to be false flag type narrative booms, hard to know. Booms are always those confusing things. But let me show you this real quick. In the Matrix posted this over here on Twitter, and as you can see, if you invert this, it looks like a little tank going on right there. How cool is that? Well, tanks make booms, don't they? And he seemed to think it may have something to do with this AUSA exhibit that's going on in Washington, D.C. right now. A whole bunch of tanks showing off, doing their stuff. Who knows? I'm not really sure. But tanks definitely do go boom, don't they? They sure bring a big boom. Now, I tend to think that this Baker revelation really is a boom, although it doesn't feel like one if you're following QAnon for a while, because we've known about this for a while. But like I said last week, it was going to be Sarah Carter. It was going to be John Solomon. It was going to be Sean Hannity that bust this story, quote unquote, wide open while we all golf clap for them. But it is a big deal. The public really needs to know about this. Like I've said before, James Baker, he did not work in the mailroom. You know what I'm saying? This guy was a big cheese. And for him to say what he's been saying is really, really damning, because it's really hard to combat that. It's hard to say that this guy didn't know what was up. He clearly knew what was up. And then, of course, Peter Strzok and Lisa Page took this and ran with it. And we've got all those communications, and I'm sure we're going to see more text coming out. So that's pretty boom worthy to me. You can let me know what you think, but I thought this was cool. Thanks to In the Matrix for the graphic. I'm not sure if you made it or not, but you did post it, and I don't know, I think it's pretty cool. So boom. Let's move on. Post 2377, 21 minutes after the hour of 3 p.m. Q takes us back to this picture here from September 27th, entitled DFT, Dianne Feinstein's something, taxi, trail, trader, who knows. But we are in China. You can see the flags. You can see the license plate right there. And Q says number 297. That would be post number 297 on the Patriotsfight post only board. Where was this picture taken? Well, we know it was taken in China, right? Hanging of flags, traditional, occurs in this part of the country for what holiday? Well, it occurs all over the country, really, for National Day. And National Day over there is October 1st. Now, they actually celebrate all week. It's a really cool holiday, actually, and the whole place is just littered with red flags. It's actually really pretty, but yeah, so we're talking about National Day, so it means that we're talking about October. Now, this picture came a while back, so we know that it wouldn't be this year. So it at least would have had to have been October of last year or a couple of years before or whatnot, but it would have been October, right? Then we get this Bloomberg link right here. New evidence of hacked Supermicro hardware found in U.S. telecom. And this was posted yesterday. A major U.S. telecommunications company discovered manipulated hardware from Supermicro Computer Incorporated in its network and removed it in August. Fresh evidence of tampering in China of critical technology components bound for the U.S., according to a security expert working for the telecom company. The security expert, Yoshi Applebaum, provided documents, analysis, and other evidence of the discovery following the publication of an investigative report in Bloomberg Businessweek that detailed how China's intelligence services had ordered subcontractors to plant malicious chips in Supermicro server motherboards over a 2-year period ending in 2015. Applebaum previously worked in the technology unit of the Israeli Army Intelligence Corps and is now co-chief executive officer of CPO Systems, Mossad, in Gaithersburg, Maryland. His firm specialized in hardware security and was hired to scan several large data centers belonging to the telecommunications company. Bloomberg is not identifying the company due to Applebaum's non-disclosure agreement with the client. Unusual communications from a Supermicro server and a subsequent physical inspection revealed an implant built into the server's Ethernet connector, a component that's used to attach network cables to the computer, Applebaum said. The executive said he had seen similar manipulations of different vendors' computer hardware made by contractors in China, not just products from Supermicro. Supermicro is a victim. So is everyone else, he said. Applebaum said his concern is that there are countless points in the supply chain in China where manipulations can be introduced, and deducing them can in many cases be impossible. That's the problem with the Chinese supply chain, he said. Supermicro, based in San Jose, California, gave this statement. The security of our customers and the integrity of our products are core to our business and our company values. We take care to secure the integrity of our products throughout the manufacturing process, and supply chain security is an important topic of discussion for our industry. We still have no knowledge of any unauthorized components and have not been informed by any customer that such components have been found. We are dismayed that Bloomberg would give us only limited information, no documentation, and half a day to respond to these new allegations. All right, so this is pretty crazy stuff right here. And let me take you down a little bit further here. Based on his inspection of the device, Applebaum determined that the telecom company's server was modified at the factory where it was manufactured. He said that he was told by Western intelligence contacts that the device was made at a Supermicro subcontractor factory in Guangzhou, a port city in southeastern China. Guangzhou is 90 miles upstream from Shenzhen, dubbed the Silicon Valley of hardware, and home to giants such as Tencent Holdings Limited and Huawei Technologies Company Limited. And you know, there's a lot of them out there. There's of course, I'm sure Apple's got stuff out there too. You've also got these Foxconn. That was what I was thinking of. Foxconn. The tampered hardware was found in a facility that had large numbers of Supermicro servers, and the telecommunications company's technicians couldn't answer what kind of data was pulsing through the infected one, said Applebaum, who accompanied them for a visual inspection of the machine. It's not clear if the telecommunications company contacted the FBI about the discovery. An FBI spokeswoman declined to comment on whether it was aware of the finding. So we've got a lot of he said, she said here, but we see that this is really, really dangerous because this is Supermicro. It's super small, right? Now let me take you a little bit further down. Here we go. CPO Systems Board includes Chairman Tamir Pardo, former director of the Israeli Mossad, the National Defense Agency of Israel, and its advisory board includes Robert Bigman, former Chief Information Security Officer of the U.S. Central Intelligence Agency. U.S. communications networks are an important target of foreign intelligence agency because data from millions of mobile phones, computers, and other devices pass through their systems. Hardware implants are key tools used to create covert openings into those networks, perform reconnaissance, and hunt for corporate intellectual property or government secrets. Okay, so there's a lot of really, really good things that you can take out of this article, although it's a little bit freaky, and this is terrible, terrible stuff. But this Supermicro, which this Applebaum is saying is just another victim, very well could be. It's hard to know. I'm sure that some of these were knowing players and some may not have been, but China was definitely trying to get all up in our electronics, all up in our intelligence, right? And so who would be facilitating that but Feinstein, right? She was over there in China. She's kind of a China buddy. She had a Chinese driver for 20 years, right? Q gives us this quote right here from the article. Western intelligence contacts that the device was made at a Supermicro subcontractor factory in Guangzhou, a port city in southeastern China. Guangzhou, 90 miles upstream from Shenzhen, dubbed the Silicon Valley of hardware. What state does Feinstein represent? Well, basically she's Northern California, right up there in San Francisco. Silicon Valley's not too far from there, is it? Now, the next link here is a Washington Post article, and I'm sorry, I'm going to paywall, and I refuse to give them any money considering who they are. The title just says explain the Chinese spy, Senator Feinstein. It's talking about her driver that she had for so many years. So, Feinstein, all wrapped up with Googly and all wrapped up with China. And then we get this next article here from The Intercept. And that's this right here. So this is talking about this guy, Ben Gomes, Google Search's engine chief. And it talks about how they're trying to develop, or they've been developing, this search engine for China. And they're calling it Dragonfly. Now, this same Dragonfly, if you've been following my channel, was the one that Vice President Mike Pence denounced the other day. Yeah, it says right here, even Vice President Mike Pence, who on Thursday last week called on Google to immediately end development of the Dragonfly app that will strengthen the Communist Party censorship and compromise the privacy of Chinese customers. Well, that's going on already out there. They're developing that whole social score thing, and they're already kind of trying it out. And it says up top here, it would blacklist phrases like human rights, student protests, and Nobel Prize, So this is Google here, folks. Google Dragonfly. And they're trying it out in China, seeing how it works, probably making a whole boatload of cash doing it. And, they're saying it's kind of no big deal. They're saying that they're trying to get it as ready as soon as possible. Here we go. And to get it ready to be brought off the shelf and quickly deployed once approval from Beijing was received. Essentially, what they're trying to do is they're trying to get this out in front of the midterms, right? And that is why Mike Pence is calling on them to stop. So I'm not really sure what they're going to do with this. I highly suggest reading this article. Like I said, it's a bit long. But this goes to show what Google's really trying to achieve worldwide, and if they can get this done with China. And it'd be really interesting to see if they are getting any of Israel's help at all with this too. But this is freaky stuff, because if it can be done in China, it can definitely be done anywhere in the world. Now, let's take you back to the Q post. Q goes on to mention Dragonfly and says, look here, Russia. Do not look here, China. Well, that's what the deep state would like us to do, right? Look at Russia. And they want the world to be looking at Trump-Russian collusion, even though there's more black hat Russian collusion than there was with Trump. But do not look here, China. Meanwhile, China is expanding like crazy. I mentioned Africa the other day. They're doing a lot of building over there in Africa. They've just taken over one of Israel's largest ports. This is a very, very big deal. China is quickly trying to expand, and it looks like they were trying to get knee deep in all our electronics so that they could spy on all of us too. So this is very likely why Trump has been so hard on Russia with trade tariffs. And, outwardly, the mainstream media is trying to make it look like we're just trying to start a war, sort of a tariff war, if you will. But I think this is essentially what we're talking about. We're talking about intellectual property. Now, Trump, earlier on in his presidency, was talking a lot about intellectual property in reference to China. And people were laughing at him, or they were kind of skipping over what they were saying, or just not paying attention to it at all. But he kept mentioning it, and nobody wanted to talk about it. And that's exactly what Trump was talking about. So this is really interesting. And now you've got Mike Pence talking about it too. And that's what this YouTube link is from. If you have not seen this video, I would check out maybe a couple, I think it's 2 videos ago for me. We showed you part of this video here. This was Mike Pence talking to I believe it was the Hudson Society. It is about a 43-minute video. And talking about China meddling in the elections, China spying on us, and then he also calls on Google to end this Dragonfly system. So this is pretty interesting stuff. It looks like now the rhetoric may eventually start shifting over to China, and it looks like Dianne Feinstein was maybe one of our spies all along. Forget her driver spy. It seems like she's a spy herself, right? Now, Q says all inside roads to China are being closed. America is no longer for sale. Well, that's a good thing to know. It's probably time that we kind of have another look at our relationship with China. China is obviously a big world player, and we want to be able to play along with them. But if we can't play fair, we definitely can't be playing this way. Now, I'm wondering if Q, if this has anything to do with these posts that we saw back in March. And let me take you over to this post here. If you remember, we were looking at the Shenzhen Stock Exchange back in, this was back in April, not March, forgive me. But this is where we were looking, the Shenzhen Stock Exchange. This was post 11:59. So hard to know exactly what event, but Q was saying the where and the why, and I think we're starting to get a lot more insight into that. Let's move on for now. Post 2378, 41 minutes after the hour of 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We get this Market Watch link right here. Here's what Trump's ethanol plan means for farmers, refiners, and motorists. President Donald Trump's plans to allow the sale of a higher concentration of ethanol and gasoline throughout the year would appease U.S. corn farmers who have been stung by low corn prices as a result of a U.S.-China trade dispute and likely even lead to lower prices at the pump. Some refiners and older car engines, however, may pay the price. Trump is expected to announce a directive later Tuesday that would allow the year-round sale of gasoline with up to 15% ethanol, also known as E15. That would include the use of the blend even during the summer driving season. Its use in the summer months is currently banned as it can produce more smog. Okay, well, I'm not really sure what I think about this here. Q says increase ethanol corn concentration in gasoline. Effort to combat China's attempts to harm our farmers. I think that sentence right there kind of sums it up. Trump announced this at the rally in Iowa and kind of sold it as this big win for farmers. Now, I'd love to hear the farmers weigh in on this. I'd really like to know the farmers' opinions, as I am not a farmer, nor am I an expert in ethanol. Now, to me, I'm not a big fan. I'm not so sure this is great for older cars. I've heard conflicting reports, but I'm not so sure this is a great idea. What I do think this is not so much a big win for farmers as it is sort of a stop the bleeding attempt, considering these trade wars that's going on with China. I don't think this is a great long-term solution. I don't think this is a great energy solution. I do think it's a possibility, of course. It obviously does work, and it will probably bring corn prices up, but I don't know that this is what we want to do long term. I'm not necessarily sure that Trump's saying that this is long term too, and I think that's why Q is saying effort to combat China's attempts to harm our farmers. So you can tell me what you think. The announcement tonight, of course, is at that rally right there. Like I said, I would love to hear the people who know a little bit more about this particular subject weigh in, and I'd love to know what you think about this, because for me, I can't really say this is a big win, but we are playing hardball with China right now, right? Like I said, the gloves are off, and we got to do what we got to do. And so if that's going to help out short term, I guess I'm all for it. Out here, we just use good old-fashioned smog producing gasoline. Yeah, let's move on. Post 2379, 19 minutes after the hour of 4 p.m. We get this graphic right here from a previous Q post, and this was responding to an Anon back on September 27th. We were tailing this car right here, and we had assumed that it was probably Shenzhen, but we did know that it was in Guangdong province, and that's what this says here. License plate matches the Chinese plate for Guangdong province, and the A that the Anon is talking about is essentially the letter up here up top, okay? Q says Guangdong, Guangzhou, Shenzhen. Do you believe in coincidences? Well, Shenzhen being their Silicon Valley, right? And Dianne Feinstein being real near to our Silicon Valley. Seems like Dianne Feinstein was our bridge, or at least her driver was. But I'm starting to think that it was just simply Dianne herself being facilitated by people like her driver. Do you believe in coincidences? I think not. I think we know exactly what's up. On a side note, I'd like to mention too that Obama's half-brother also lives out there in Shenzhen. His name is Mark Nisanjo, I think his name is. Yeah, Mark Nisanjo. And he's been through a few different, he was a teacher, and then he kind of had he had a tech job for a while too. And last I heard, he was running an orphanage. So do what you want with that. I don't believe that they've ever stated they were close. They've only met a handful of times, or at least that's what they say, but I just wanted to throw that out there. Let's move on. Post 2380, 42 minutes after the hour of 8 p.m., we get a statement which seems to be given authority by the president for Q to give to us. General statement: we understand that there is extreme fatigue and frustration regarding the wheels of justice being slow. Exclude emotion and personal desire. Instead, use logic and critical thinking based on situational awareness. Undo a lifetime of evil and corruption. Infestation in the span of less than 2 years with a corrupt DOJ and FBI in place. Yeah, I mean, I hear this every day. I think there's a lot of people that, I get it. Let me know when the arrests come. Well, we've had many arrests. It isn't the arrest that we want to see. And I get that. But the fact of the matter is that this is a lifetime of infestation. These are families that have bred themselves into power. And we've been fighting this for essentially 2 years. So there's going to be times where it feels slow. And I know a lot of times we expect these booms and they don't turn out to be really these booms that we were hoping for. And I get it. And I think one of the best suggestions that I can kind of give is to take a break from time to time, because that might be required. Sometimes you just got to get your strength back and get right back to fighting. This is a long fight. We're at war, and we're not just going to drop some bombs and eat some cheeseburgers and everything's going to be all good to go. We've got to be into this for the long haul. And this goes well beyond the presidency of Donald Trump too, right? This is us. This is about our country, right? So enough of my speaking, but I think Q is basically stating in their case here: process and planning, law and order, military operation. How can you make arrests that are non-military prior to first fully cleaning out corrupt elements at the top of those departments? Yeah, look, the top of our FBI, the top of our DOJ was all corrupt. If we were able to have done that, we would have done it for Fast and Furious. We would have done it during Benghazi. We weren't able to pull it off. That oversee investigation and prosecution in the United States. They themselves are the very ones engaged in illegal, treasonous acts. So it's one thing to say, let's just go in there and arrest everybody. It doesn't work that way. These guys are all lawyers. We can't just put them away like that. That's not the way this went down. James Comey was fired. Andrew McCabe, number 2, was fired. Jim Rubicki, essentially number 3, was fired. James Baker, fired. Bill Priestap's, Strzok's boss, cooperating witness, power removed. We haven't even heard what Bill Priestap had to say yet, but we do know that he has given testimony. Peter Strzok, we already know that he gave testimony too. He was fired. Lisa Page, fired. Mike Cortan, fired. We haven't heard about his testimony either. Josh Campbell, haven't heard from him either, fired. David Loftman, chief of the Justice Department's Counterintelligence and Export Control Section, National Security HRC email investigation, fired or forced. John Carlin, head of DOJ's National Security Division, fired, forced. So these are, like I said, these aren't people that are working in the mailroom, right? Sally Yates, Deputy Attorney General and Acting Attorney General, fired. Now remember, she was in brackets yesterday, so I have a feeling that she's up soon. Mary McCord, Acting Assistant Attorney General, Acting Head of DOJ's National Security Division, fired. Bruce Orr, Deputy Attorney General, demoted 2 times, cooperating witness, and his testimony was very damning. Power removed, termination imminent. So he's going to be going very soon. I'm sure that I wouldn't be surprised if the security clearance was already gone. Rachel Brand, now investigating low prices at Walmart, right? Associate Attorney General, number 3 official behind Deputy A.G. Rosenstein, fired, forced. We haven't even heard why, right? And then we're looking at the batter's box. And if you don't know what the batter's box means, that's they're on deck. That means they're coming up next. Michael Steinbach, John Glacalone, Randy Coleman. He was wrapped up in the whole situation with Comey and McCabe, right? Trisha Anderson. Then it gives you this New York Times article, and it's talking about Trisha Anderson being married to this Charles Newman. It talks a little bit about their family and how hooked up they are. She is the daughter of Betty Anderson and Howard B. Anderson of Cranberry Township, Pennsylvania. The bride's father is the commodity and energy risk manager in Pittsburgh at Del Monte Foods, the San Francisco food production and distribution company. And then her husband, Newman, he is the son of Mary Elizabeth Newman and George W. Newman III of Cincinnati. The bridegroom's mother works from home, directing projects involving leadership training and development at the Cygnus Corporation, a management consultancy in Rockville, Maryland. His father retired as the owner of the Robust Leather Corporation. So these people were pretty hooked up, right? And then we talk about Tashina Gohar, Kevin Kleinsmith. Those were our quote-unquote French-speaking lawyers, right? Sally Moyer. How do you ensure those prosecuted non-military would receive an impartial judgment based on the rule of law? Well, you have to make sure that the people that are enforcing the law, the people that basically are in charge of the law, are clean too. Think federal judge rulings. Obstruction. POTUS granted constitutional authority. Think about how many different judges we've had to go through, and we've just watched this whole soap opera regarding Justice Kavanaugh. How do you ensure appeals to the U.S. Supreme Court are evaluated impartially based on the rule of law? Think Justice Kavanaugh, 5-4. Military law versus criminal law. Yeah, you remember the interview from Lindsey Graham, right, to Justice Kavanaugh, specifically mentioning military tribunals and what they do in regards to military law versus criminal law, and wanting to know Justice Kavanaugh's feelings on that and his knowledge about that, clearly shouting out to the deep state. And like I said, these people are all lawyers, which means they're all going to appeal all the way up to the U.S. Supreme Court, right? Well, these people are enemy combatants. And how do we treat enemy combatants? Well, we heard that from Kavanaugh. Sometimes they can even be put to death, right? How do you navigate around an installed blockade? Well, that installed blockade was essentially Mueller in this investigation, designed to take in evidence needed to expose the deep state. DOJ block regarding Mueller evidence ongoing investigation. Yeah, as long as that bus was going and Rod Rowe and Mueller were driving it, everything was going to be just fine. It was going to drive them right up to the midterms where they could take back the House. Mueller designed to limit POTUS's ability to maneuver. Yeah, if he's under investigation, he can't do anything, right? Designed to stall for time until midterm elections to terminate all House, Senate ongoing investigations. Mueller designed to safeguard Democratic Party base false narrative regarding Russian collusion. POTUS cheated, evil, sky is falling. That's essentially what we're dealing with, right? In effort to divide and mobilize for future protests, riots, threats, violence, false flags, etc. Well, since that failed, all these protests and riots and threats look more and more ridiculous, and it's backfired now, hasn't it? Mueller designed to provide fake news with ammunition to sway public opinion, obstruct foreign plus domestic agenda, fuel impeachment, fuel anti-POTUS division, prevent unity, etc. Yeah, look, if you've got half the people in the country thinking that our president is a criminal, that is going to create a lot of discord, right? And that's essentially what they were trying to do. Didn't matter if it was true or not. That's all they wanted you to know about. And so they dominated the news media with it, and all they've talked about is Mueller. And I'm sure you all have your hard-leaning left friends at home that are telling you, just wait until Mueller gets their hand out. They're still crying it, right? They still think Mueller's about to pull out a Whopper with cheese on us, right? Mueller designed to demonstrate to foreign players that old guard still pulls strings, and that's a big deal, right? They're trying to let their all our foreign knucklehead players that no, we're still good. Deep state, they're throwing up their gang signs, right? Mueller designed to mobilize Democratic Party for midterm vote win, and at the end of the day, that was their plan B. They knew that since Trump won, the only thing they could do is paint him out to be a criminal and try and stall this thing out till midterms. This bus was only designed to go as far as midterms. And now that we've seen it all fall apart, we're starting to see those wheels come off. Mueller designed to push Democratic Party backers to donate to a GoFundMe. Democratic Party, yeah, that's how they got to get their money, because they lost it all in that executive order. Mueller designed as public outcry excuse should criminal charges be brought against them. We are being politically attacked because Mueller. Yeah, if they've got an investigation going on and all of a sudden we see these arrests going on, they're going to say, oh, you're just arresting them because you don't want to be investigated, right? How do you remove installed blockade? D-class, D-class, D-class. Bacony, cheesy, goodness. How do you navigate around an installed, corrupt FBI and DOJ? Well, you go all the way to the top with somebody who was not corrupt. You use a stealth bomber, and that's Stealth Jeff, right? Who must authorize firing of FBI, DOJ officials? That would be this guy right here. And that's precisely why McCabe tried to take him out. Now, this was an NBC link to a video. I'm sorry, I can't really play this for you because MSNBC videos try to hit me. I usually try and skirt around MSNBC. McCabe authorized perjury investigation into Sessions. Fired FBI Deputy Director Andrew McCabe previously authorized an investigation into whether Attorney General Jeff Sessions lied to Congress. And if you remember, Jeff Sessions had to talk to Congress. It was this whole big to-do for a couple weeks, and then it went away. Well, why did that happen? Because McCabe knew that Sessions was a stealth bomber. McCabe knows that Sessions is not as dumb as everybody thinks, is not as lazy as everybody thinks, and I'm sure McCabe knows exactly who Huber and Horowitz are and what they're doing. And although outwardly what it looked like was a loss, right? Everyone thought that Sessions was taking a loss because he was forced to recuse, and they thought, Sessions is a knucklehead. He's just another deep state player. He's recusing. He must be guilty. When the fact of the matter is he recused himself of something that he doesn't really need to be investigating in the first place, which is Trump-Russia collusion, which frees him up to bring in IG Horowitz and Huber. And that's exactly what they were afraid of, and that's exactly why McCabe tried to take Sessions out. What was the Sessions Senate confirmation vote? Barely. 52-47. Nothing like Rod Rowe, right? And then Q says number 175, logical thinking versus clickbait. And again, Q is talking about Patriotsfight. And the post is 175 right here. Let me blow it up a little bit. That's about as big as I can get it. The experts. But Sessions should appoint a second special counsel in D.C., a.k.a. the corrupt swamp. Okay, you can go ahead and read that on your own. But the whole point is that this is what a lot of the conservative media was saying Sessions should do. But of course, we don't want a second special counsel. That would run us way past midterms, and that's not how this needs to be done. The real critical thing here is Huber and Horowitz being able to impanel a grand jury and being able to work outside of D.C. 90% plus voted HRC. If you go in D.C., you're going to get more slow justice. And a lot of that is what we're seeing. We're seeing slow justice, and it's not for everybody. It's asinine, and we're all kind of tired of it, and we want to get through it. But the fact of the matter is, if we don't do this right, it's not going to get done at all. And we'll be fighting for the rest of our lives. And we are in the fight of our lives right now. So we better do this right. And that's logical thinking versus the clickbait. And those, ladies and gentlemen, are your Q posts. Now I got one fun little story before I let you go. From USA Today, Fight Night, Avenatti proposes MMA bout against Trump Jr. for charity. Attorney Michael Avenatti proposed Tuesday night to fight Donald Trump Jr. for charity. Yes, really? All right, so how's that going to go? Ladies and gentlemen, in this corner, hailing from the deep state, weighing in at 78 kilograms, Michael Buttercup Avenatti. All right, well, I'm not going to lie to you. I want to get in on this. What's up? Avenatti, a frequent Trump critic who represented adult entertainment star Stormy Daniels in her lawsuit against President Donald Trump and his lawyer Michael Cohen, made the proposal during lunch with an NBC reporter. Dylan Byers, a media reporter, wrote on Twitter that he was having lunch with Avenatti when the lawyer proposed a 3-round mixed martial arts fight with Donald Trump Jr. This would be for 2 great causes I'm in. Michael Avenatti wrote on Twitter, my portion of the proceeds from the fight will be split 50% to rebuilding Puerto Rico and 50% to @RAIN, RAINN. He added that he was just waiting for Trump Jr. to confirm the fight. Avenatti has become a focal point in many of the major stories since Daniel's story of a payment to keep her silent about an affair with the president led to Cohen's downfall. He is also debating a possible 2020 presidential run against Trump. Do it! Also, Avenatti represented families separated at the southern border and a woman who alleged sexual misconduct by Brett Kavanaugh during his Supreme Court nomination process. Okay, so Buttercup's trying to be Butterbean, huh? My goodness, I like everything about this story. I think we should go with this. Although I don't know, it seems like Donald Trump Jr. seems like kind of a strange guy to go after. I don't know about Donald Trump Jr. He doesn't seem really like the fighting type. But there you go. Oh, how I wish you hated me just as much as you hate Trump Jr., Avenatti. How I would love to get in on that. Maybe Ben Collins will take my bait. Who knows? We'll see. All right. I thought you guys would enjoy that. All right, boys and girls, those are your Q posts for today. As always, if you like this video, please click like, share, and subscribe. Thanks to all of you who already do that and share my videos. I greatly appreciate it. If you are new to my channel, please keep in mind that from time to time, CEO of YouTube, Susan Wojcicki, will sneak into your house. She will wait until you go to work, and then she will sit at your desk, and she'll move all your stuff around, and she will unsubscribe you from me. It's true. It happens. My Real.Video, my Gab, my BitChute, my Patreon link, my email, all that stuff, if you want to support my channel, is down below. All my links are down below. And I am over here on my Twitter at IPOT1776. That's at IPOT1776. If you want to join me over here on Twitter, at least until they boot me off. All right, that's all I got for you. I'm Sir Patrick Mack. And until next time, stay a little bit loony.